All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be going over some of my settings that I have for the finals. I'm going to link the Steam configuration in the description below so that you can build off of this. But for those that don't know, Steam input is essentially like a way you can use mouse and keyboard on controller. It's all my binds are on mouse and keyboard. So I would set your mouse and keyboard binds to whatever you got here. I should label these, but maybe I'll do that before I send out the Steam config. But essentially, you have to be able to set your dots per 360. And this is a setting that will basically calibrate your controller to turn one full turn with your controller. So in game, mouse sensitivity is at 12, and the dots per 360 for that is equal to 30,000. Gyro sense should be whatever you want. I like to play anywhere between 4 to I think max of 7 at the most, but 5.75 has been working for me. 6 has also been really good to me for the finals. It's kind of a faster game, so I kind of like to be able to keep up with some of the lights and all that, the fast movement that the game has. So let's go ahead and dig into some of the gyro settings itself. So to suppress, I use hold to suppress the gyro. It's a way to turn it off something so I can reposition and ratchet back to, center as if I was putting down a mouse. I like to keep that on L1, but I know some people like to use the touchpad or one of the face buttons. It's all up to you. But I like flick stick, so I kind of like to keep my thumb on the joystick here, so I don't place it anywhere in this region. Gyro sensitivity, dots per 360, we just went over that. Gyro speed dead zone. Now, I play around with these settings all the time. I'd say that generally speaking, the lower you have it, the better. I don't recommend using this. This is kind of like a bad setting. If your hands are really shaky or whatever, I mean, maybe you want to turn this up to like maybe max of 0.2 in my opinion, but generally speaking, I keep that off and I use this precision speed filter instead. This one's going to feel a little bit more smoother to you. This one's going to feel like the movement with your controller is a little less choppy, but this is going to give you it's going to slow down your cursor when you move it below a certain degrees per second. I typically don't go higher than 1% if I use it, or 1 degree per second. But I've played around with this setting. Honestly, it's all user preference, but I've played with it on and played with it off, but typically speaking, I don't go above 1 degree per second. Now, vertical and horizontal output mixer, this is kind of like a ratio for those who haven't used it before. This is essentially like minus 30% is 70% of your gyro sensitivity. And you can crunch numbers all you want, you know. You can go by feel. But typically speaking, I don't like to play 1-to-1. I don't like to play it at 0%. That means that my vertical sensitivity is equal to my horizontal. I think lower sensitivity, maybe that might be a good idea, but for higher sensitivity, I'd recommend going anywhere from like maybe 50% at the lowest to highest 20%. I don't know, I'm still playing around with this one too, but this is, right now I'm using 30%. Trying to get it back here. There we go. No acceleration. Again, user preference. Yeah. Enable momentum. I don't really use it, but if you are going to have your enable gyro, let's say we go to hold to enable gyro. When we're holding it and we let go and we are making a movement with our controller to the left, say we are moving our controller to the left and we let go, this where is it, momentum is going to carry that same movement and kind of like it's on slides, I guess. Like you can kind of throw your aim and catch it. This is pretty good if you're not going to play with flick stick. It's a good for ratcheting because you can really turn yourself around, you know, like you can flick your controller and just let your momentum carry you to 180 and then stop it again with your gyro off or gyro on button up there. So I think it's a pretty cool setting. I don't use it, but if you're gonna play around with gyro a lot, you're probably gonna try it once or twice. You know, there's a lot of settings here. There's a lot of user preference. So this is just what works for me. Player space is what I use. I've been playing with player space recently, but so this one's probably the most intuitive one to use. But y'all, I think, will teach you the best because y'all only uses 2 axes, and I recommend watching flick stick videos. I can send his link in the description as well. But y'all essentially is like, it takes the rolling axis out of everything else, and rolling can give you extra range, but because it's an extra axis that you're using on the controller, it can, I mean, there's a margin of error there. Just like we're not like robots, and we can't get everything perfectly accurate all the time. But y'all will teach you the basics pretty well. I recommend using either y'all, player space, or local space. You can I'd try them all out, you know, see what feels best for you. I don't recommend roll. I think roll is kind of silly, but then again, you know, it's just up to you. But yeah, player space and y'all is what I use, and sometimes local. So another setting I play around with is this trigger dampening, and basically when we press our right trigger, the soft part of our trigger, which is all determined by the Steam settings. I mean, like there's so many Steam settings, it's crazy, but it's the light press. It's like I say, it's the light press of the trigger is going to basically reduce your sensitivity by whatever number you set this to. It could be half, it could be 90. There's a lot of cool things you can do with it. Right now I have this at 90 because I'm using a DualSense Edge, and the trigger stops kind of make it almost like a hair trigger. So I have this really high because my soft press dead zone is really small. So, but play around with it. You can do right trigger. You can do ADS, like left trigger. Say you like want like a higher sensitivity, or lower sensitivity on your left trigger. Like say you're aiming down a gun and you want it half of what you want. You can universally do that by just sliding this down to like 50 for 50% of whatever your gyro sensitivities are up there. But right now I kind of keep this at 90 to keep the clicking of semi-automatic weapons from being too bouncy. So I don't know. Play around with it. Turn it off if you don't like it. It's not necessary to learn. Now, movement threshold is an interesting thing I've been playing with in the finals. Essentially, this is going to work kind of like a dead zone, but it's not a dead zone because dead zone will take out any movement that is below a certain degrees per second. Like, it's just not registered. Now, movement threshold is registered. It just has to cross whatever threshold and whatever math Steam is doing. I recommend staying below 3. I think if you're learning out to kind of get the movements down, I wouldn't go past 3. But generally speaking, if you can master it, having it at 0 or 1 is probably the best course of action. 0 being most ideal because there's absolutely there's more range of motion, there's more control, less control, but more precision. So I keep that at 1 or 0 most of the time. Let's get into some of our binds here. And again, you're going to have to go to your mouse and keyboard settings on said game or on the finals, and you're going to have to map this accordingly. I think I have my mouse and keyboard binds as default, so it should go by pretty smoothly. Like, you can probably copy these one by one and it'll be fine. So for our buttons here, I've got triangle as 1, which is I think to equip my weapon. V is melee, so I've got melee on the X face button there. Reload, square, kind of normal button to have reload on in most games by default on a controller. Q key, that's my specialization. I think if you're a dash player or light player, you can put this on a different thing, but I use the face button for my specialization. Now for L1, that's remember how that is our gyro to disable button. So I don't want anything to happen when I disable my gyro, so I just turn off the command. And you can do that by selecting the cog here and going to like remove command. R1, that's my crouch. I don't have these bound to anything, but like I said, I'm using a DualSense Edge, so I've got some extra buttons here that are available to me that you might not have on a DualSense. I understand it's an expensive controller, but you can make some of these commands listen to, like, you have limited binds, right? Let's say you want your use key or F or E key on your face button, but you also want another, unimportant bind here. You can go to the cog wheel here and go to double press, or no, sorry, you have to add an extra command or add a sub command. Let's see what I got here. Yeah, so that's exactly. So you add an extra command and then make sure you select whatever it is. Now once you have that, you assign a button to it, and you can kind of give it, how are you going to enable it? So I like double press. It's easy. It makes it easy to understand. But there's a lot of different options here. But double press is simple. Regular press is simple. And I can get into start and release in a second. Let's see. Yeah, so I've got my paddles on use, and interact, and then J key. Here's a menu key for swapping classes. It's kind of unimportant, which is why I have it on double press. So I recommend, if you're going to make an unimportant like command for navigating, make it on double press or make a different action set. I'm not going to cover action sets in this video, not really, but maybe in a separate video I can do that. But I'm sure there's plenty of content out there that can explain it better than I can. D-pad, I don't use D-pad that much, but then again, you know, that can be another set of commands that you want. Maybe you want ping out here on the left pad, or communications, so that can be used for that. Triggers, I keep my left and right mouse click on my triggers, and I make sure that they're on soft pull, and I remove the command on full pull. As you know, I use flick stick, so my commands are a little bit different. I have an action set here where we enable this action set by holding in the right stick, and the right stick, when I click it in, it's going to change over to that other action set. As you see here, I've got gadget wheel as my second action set, and it's got all the same commands. It just disables the gyro when I hold it down. Or no, it doesn't. I don't think it does. But in your second action set, once you've created it, it should mirror your first set, your default set by. You should, but you know, if you kind of come up with something wacky that you like to do, you can do that. But right joystick behavior. Okay, we're gonna go to our right joystick behavior because this is our gadget wheel. So what we do is we hit the create radial menu here. So when we go to press in our R3 stick, it's going to create basically an equipment wheel. So we go here, and once we want to put commands into this wheel now, so I have 1, 4, 3, 2, because that's kind of like how it's organized in the finals. Right to left, or left to right, sorry. And to go back to your default set, which is the one that you're going to be using 90% of the time, you are going to want to add a command here for the R3 click. Make sure it is set to release press right here, and you will assign that by going to action set, change action set, and it will prompt you to select one, and I believe you select your default set here. I guess you can do it with touch too. I haven't tried that, but I also recommend, there's a way you can turn off, there's a setting you can find that you can turn off the there'll be like a little prompt that comes up saying you've switched action sets, and I turn that off because it gets really annoying. But I can't figure it out how to bring it up right now, but maybe I'll find a way. What else? We've hit our gyro. I don't have anything on trackpads except for click left trackpad for scoreboard, which is tab there. Joystick, left joystick is going to be WSAD. Everything is going to be on mouse keyboard. So, and I like to keep jump on my left stick here. So I click to jump. But yeah, that should be basically it, right? Got most of my buttons, I got my gyro. Yeah, so that essentially is my settings. I can totally just don't bother sorry. I mean, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. I don't have all the answers, but there's a lot of guys out here that do. There's a Discord you can join that there's a lot of people that know a lot more than me about this stuff, but I'll make sure I can link that in the description as well. Anyway, thanks for watching if you've stayed around, and I hope that these settings help. See ya.